What's happening, gang? So today, I want to introduce y'all to something called the school to prison pipeline. I feel like it's very educational for black young youth that's um stuck in the hood, stuck in poverty, stuck in a bad neighborhood. And I want y'all to see this video and what I'm trying to present to y'all basically, okay? Don't drink and drive. Don't drink and drive.
There's this phrase that you might hear in the news sometimes, the school to prison pipeline. It's shorthand for how schools are funneling students, especially black students, into the criminal justice system. It started in the 90s when schools responded to fears about crime with zero tolerance policies, which mandated suspensions and expulsions for certain violations. They also cracked down on little things like talking back or uniform violations. The hope was that it would keep bigger problems from bubbling up. But as a result, out-of-school suspensions have doubled since the 1970s, and they keep increasing even though juvenile crime rates have now been dropping for years. Around the same time, the number of police officers stationed full-time inside schools has increased by a third between 1997 and 2007. Ostensibly, they were there to prevent mass school shootings like the one at Columbine, but they end up being a way for schools to basically outsource discipline to the police. Schools with officers have 5 times as many arrests for disorderly conduct as schools without them. Sometimes the results are shocking. But the less visible
I
effect
remember that.
is that schools are feeding the racial disparities in the criminal justice system. Consider the fact that schools are more likely to have an officer on their campus if the student population is more than 50% black. You might assume that that's because there's more crime at these schools, but although students at police schools are more likely to be arrested, they're not actually more likely to be charged in court for weapons, drugs, alcohol, or assault, at least according to one study. During the 2010-2011 school year, 1 in 6 public school students in the US were black, but they accounted for 1 in 3 arrests at school. Same goes for other forms of school discipline. Black students are suspended or expelled 3 times more frequently than white students. It actually begins in preschool. 18% of preschoolers are black. But of all preschoolers suspended more than once, 48% are black. Studies show that differences in behavior can't fully account for these disparities. Black students and white students are sent to the principal's office at similar rates, but black students are more likely to end up with a serious punishment. One study found that white students are more likely to be suspended for provable offenses like smoking or vandalism. Black students are more likely to be suspended for subjective offenses like talking back or insubordination. Students who are suspended in school are more likely to later drop out or get arrested, so the federal government is asking schools to make suspension and expulsion the absolute last resort. In Oakland, California, public schools are trying something called restorative justice, where both parties in a conflict talk it out with a counselor instead of relying on punishment. The results are pretty encouraging. In the last 10 years, chronic absenteeism is down, and graduation rates are up in the schools that have tried it. Other cities and districts are also trying new policies. They're
It's
hoping
got a
that
great
if their
video
students
idea.
end up in the criminal justice system, at least it won't be because the schools pushed them there.
So basically what they trying to say is we my people are more likely to get a harsher punishment when it comes to necessarily like getting suspended in school. And since they suspend us so much in school, right? Necessarily gang, right? Um we're more likely to just stop going because we keep getting suspended. I have friends that have been through suspended a lot, and it's usually because of behavior, but it's usually because of the environment that they came from necessarily that caused them to have this behavior. I'm telling you, it's always two sides to every story, y'all. So I will admit they were pretty bad kids. Well, not even bad, but just bad behavior. But at the same time, suspending them doesn't do nothing but lead them straight to the streets because eventually they're just gonna stop going to school. I know plenty. I'm like one of my only friends. Me and my brother Ken, the only people that have our high school diploma out of all my friends. Let's watch another video. Um, let's watch this one. It's probably sorry, gang.
What would you do if your child was placed in handcuffs for crying at school? Well, this was a reality for a 7-year-old black boy in Missouri, and it
7.
isn't rare for black and brown kids across the country. Whether it's getting arrested for talking back or doodling on a desk, in school policing is harming students by taking them out of school and helping funnel them into prisons. It's called the school to prison pipeline. We're talking about a structure of codes and punishments that criminalizes kids as early as preschool and increases their chances of ending up in the criminal justice system. 99% of New York City school children who were handcuffed in 2016 were Black or Latinx.
99%?
This happens when school resource officers are called into classrooms to discipline students, sometimes for something as small as violating a dress code or grabbing candy from a teacher's desk. If the offense doesn't lead to an arrest, Black and brown students are still subject to harsher punishments than white students. Black students are 4 times more likely to be suspended than their white peers. Sometimes students are kicked out of school for
Damn.
basically just being black. Like in cases across the country where black girls were suspended for rocking braids or an afro. So, where do students go after they've been kicked out of school? Research shows they're 3 times more likely to end up in the juvenile justice system within a year. This is all part of an endless cycle. Once kids touch the juvenile justice system, they're 67% more likely to end up in jail again before they're 25. So, what lessons are schools and police really teaching our kids here? How can kids excel in school if they're always being kicked out of them?
I think what would help though, this is my last video that we gonna watch, gang. But I feel like one thing that can help is bringing back in school suspensions because they don't have that no that back in, like 2012, like long time ago, like 2011, 10, like a long time ago. I haven't seen school suspensions in a long time, bro. They may have after school detention, but like not in school suspensions though. The problem is that we send them and we kick these kids out of school, and then next thing you know, they end up in the streets or they end up in jail. Think about it. Young kids, their brain isn't developed. They have nothing but time to get into trouble, rob, steal, do whatever they can in their environment because they have nothing but time on their hands. The ideal mind is the devil's playground, y'all. But yeah, I just wanted to show y'all that video though, gang, bro. Let me know what y'all think. I feel like this is a problem with a lot of our people nowadays and the stuff that we go through. So let me know what y'all think.